Well, hello and welcome back, everybody. Let me grab my glasses. OJ moves my stuff around all the time. Kat said hi again, everyone. Nufflin, where you been, girlfriend? Hello, Izzy. Izzy's here. TCB's back. My husband's in the house. I've been talking on the phone with Jules, JTB. Tam says, so kind to Brooks. I'm so excited. Well, my goodness, thank you. Hello, Canadian Cookie. Hello, Rexy. I don't know what the hell they're trying to do. Murdaugh's defense team. Some people would call it throw enough at the wall and something's going to stick, but this is money this is money, okay? Usually once someone is in jail and the gavel's gone down, they just don't really mess with it. They basically just wait for the appeals process to go through, and that's pretty much it. But from what I'm understanding, if what I'm reading correctly, is that they're saying that there was a mole on the jury. And someone has come forward saying that they were told how to vote. Bushy said this is just fishy AF to me. Yeah. Stacy B said these are very severe allegations that they better hope they can prove true. Now, Judge Newman is about to retire. From what I'm understanding, Newman has been reelected to his seat 3 times. But this is his last term because South Carolina requires that judges retire in the same calendar year as their 72nd birthday. So I don't know what that means. Obviously, when he turns 72 in November, I guess he's got to retire soon. We don't know what judge is going to hear this motion or what's going to happen. Let's look at this. And yes, I absolutely adore Judge Newman.
His defense team is holding a press conference at 2:30, requesting a new trial after discovering some new evidence that they say helps prove his innocence. And all morning, we've been wondering, what is this new evidence that's remained such a mystery? Well, Court TV just got a hold of the defense filing for this motion for a new trial. If this is true, this would be huge. The defense team is alleging in their motion, and I'm reading directly from it right now, they're alleging that they've discovered that the clerk of court tampered with the jury. The defense team is saying that the clerk advised the jurors not to believe Alec Murdaugh's testimony and other evidence presented by the defense team. They're alleging that the clerk of court pressured the jurors to reach a quick guilty verdict and misrepresented some material information to the judge in what they call her campaign to remove a juror she believed would be favorable to the defense. The Colleton County Clerk of Court is Rebecca Hill. And here the defense team is alleging that she instructs jurors not to be misled by the evidence presented by the Murdaugh defense team and not be fooled by his testimony in his own defense. Now, this defense team is even going so far as to say in this motion to the judge for a new trial that Rebecca Hill did these things to secure a book deal for herself and media appearances that wouldn't have happened in the event of a mistrial. They say she betrayed her oath of office for fame and money. Wow. These are some heavy allegations. And if they are true, this kind of conduct could absolutely result in a new trial for Alec Murdaugh. We don't know if it's true. These are allegations being made by the Murdaugh defense team. And I suspect we're going to hear even more than they've laid out in this motion in the portions I've read to you today at 2:30 when they address the public. But if this is true, if the clerk of court did tamper with that jury, that could very well be grounds for a whole new trial. Let me bring in my guest for some reaction now. He's a practicing criminal defense attorney, also formerly a deputy district attorney in the Los Angeles County DA's office. Mr. Josh Ritter on the show. Josh, your thoughts on this, please.
Yeah, wow is right. You're right. If this is really salacious stuff. So if this is true, I think we should continue to say, I agree with you. I don't see how this could not be huge because, listen, the idea of making an argument of tampering with the jury is not novel, is not remarkable. They're going to say that, oh, the media influenced them, or that they couldn't keep their they couldn't hear about it on the news enough. They weren't able to avoid it in newspapers and on TV. But when you're saying that a clerk had actually told them to disregard evidence or to arrive at a verdict quickly, that it's almost like they're being given this insider information. You could understand how that would influence them. If they believe that they're being told something, hey, you're not going to hear about this in court. I'm going to tell you the inside scoop. Don't listen to his testimony here. This is all a lie. How could that not influence them? Like you said, like I'm saying, if true, this could be huge.
Exactly, Josh. And to just bring it all home, they mention in their allegations that Rebecca Hill, the clerk of court, did this for a book deal to secure that for herself. She did, in fact, write a book. That is fact, that she wrote a book. We don't know her motivations. We have no idea. Again, defense allegations about the why or all of this misconduct. Strictly allegations. We don't know if they are truths. But we even had her on Court TV Live talking about her book. It's called Behind the Doors of Justice. And it came out this summer. She came on with her co-author, talked a lot about being in the courtroom day in and day out. We were asking about how Alec Murdaugh appeared. She's somebody that has a long history with the Murdaugh family. Her grandparents and his grandparents all knew each other, very small town in Colleton County. If this is true, I mean, this could be career-ending stuff for her and potentially other ramifications because she took an oath of office. So not only could Murdaugh get a new trial, but in terms of for her, Josh Ritter, I mean, what could, if this is true, what could she be looking at here, please?
Oh, it's not only career-ending. We could be talking criminal charges. I mean, if she was actually trying to influence the jury, and then if you're saying that was somehow connected to her own financial gain with this book, that's huge. I mean, in fact, in some jurisdictions, it's a capital offense to try to unrighteously, without justification, convict someone for murder where they could suffer capital offense judgment themselves. So this is really serious stuff if this turns out to be true, that she was somehow providing information, misleading information to those jurors. If all of this, again, this is all coming out of a motion, it's coming out of the defense motion, they're going to try to make that sound as convincing as they possibly can. But if all of this somehow bears out in actual evidence, it's a huge problem.
It sure is. And thank you for all of that, Josh. You're right. If they investigate this and if they deem these claims to be true, and if investigators are able to verify what was done and the influence exerted and the potential motive behind it, you're right. She could be looking at criminal charges herself. That would be a totally separate case that could be thrown at her. So this is big stuff. You know, when you take an oath of office to serve the court, you know, I mean, we both, you know, Josh, you and I have both, you know, taken an oath when we served as prosecutors, when we were sworn in the first time as young lawyers. You know, you take an oath to be an officer of the court. And so here, you know, she had a different kind of oath, but as the clerk of court in Colleton County, this is a big elected position. You're serving the public. I want to just impress upon all of our viewers the magnitude of this position. This is a powerful position. You know, is it not, when the voters will elect her to something where you are serving and helping carry out justice in your county?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know this, we know this from having practiced, that the court staff, the clerks, the bailiffs, everybody who's involved and somehow going to have any connection to the jury, any contact with them whatsoever, they go through great pains to make sure that they're not doing anything that may even be perceived as trying to influence them. I know bailiffs who will, have very limited contact with jurors because they don't want even the appearance of impropriety to take place, that they're trying to somehow let the jurors know how they're feeling about the case. So if it turns out that it went way beyond that, but it was actual influence by, like you said, an elected official, somebody whose entire job is maintaining the integrity of the court, huge problem. Huge problem for this case. It could end up in a retrial. Huge problem for her if it all bears out to be true, that she could be looking at criminal charges herself.
Exactly, Josh. This
for real. And as we went through the trial, we all know that there is no way in hell that that law firm did not know about the money coming in and going out. We know that. So this, no way that happened. This is Rebecca Hill. Yes, she goes way back with the family. Way back with the family. And by the way, I'm not saying she did anything. I wouldn't be surprised if she's not being set up for something, and probably because of this. She did write a book. It has been shared over and over and over and over. So when someone that's involved with the trial, and it's a trial that didn't go their way, well, someone's going to go after someone. And the family, the law firm are still very well connected. Still. Chica said if she does know the family, then why was she allowed in court to work with it? She's a court clerk. And it's a small town. So basically, she knows everybody in town. So everybody that comes through to go to court, unless they had changed venue, she would come across their paperwork. Dakota said they should have changed the venue in the first place. I mean, when you're in a small town and everybody knows everybody, there's really not anything you can do. I mean, you can't replace everybody. All right, let's get to it.
This is massive. This is far bigger than anything I think we could have anticipated here. Because we're not talking about some brand new discovery.
Murder of his wife Maggie and son Paul. Now, I first heard this and I was like, it's going to be a whole cup of nothing as far as I was concerned. However, the defense claims that the elected clerk of the courts tampered with the jury. That is not a good statement to hear if you're a prosecutor. Murdaugh was sentenced to life in prison back in March for the death of his wife and his son. Murdaugh's attorneys, Dick Harpootlian and Jim Griffin, will be hosting a press conference today as they file a motion requesting a whole new trial in the case. In part, their statement reads, "Today we filed the petition based upon newly discovered evidence with the Supreme Court of Appeals, South Carolina Court of Appeals, to say Alec Murdaugh appeal while a hearing, is held on a motion for a new trial." These are serious allegations that are filed in this petition, and they themselves could explain a number of peculiarities that occurred in the 6-week trial. And they ask that we request SLED stand down on initiating any investigation of these allegations, since they are heavily invested maintaining Alex's conviction. Alec Murdaugh maintained and still maintains his innocence of the murder and malice of Maggie, and Paul, and he believes the truth will ultimately prevail. I'm so excited. It's just too much for me to be able to deal with. This is really serious, folks, because what we're saying here, and I'm reading the paperwork, and we have some great guests that are going to join us right now, is that this clerk did some extremely and extraordinarily bad things that, in my mind, could very well necessitate a reversal of the conviction. And not only did they, in their moving papers, write these things, they brought some receipts with regard to affidavits from some of the jurors. So, I mean, if these things pan out to be true at a factual hearing, this prosecution's conviction is in jeopardy. Joining me to discuss the news is criminal defense attorney Chris Adams, along with law crime correspondents Anjanette Levy and Gigi McKelvey. Thank you guys for joining me. I'll start with you. Okay, I'll start with you, Anjanette. What can you tell us about this incredible motion, and were you struck as I was that they actually have affidavits from jurors here?
Hi, Bob. This is the motion. I've been trying to get through the entire thing. It's 65 pages. It includes statements by the defense, also includes affidavits, and some really startling claims. I am not that surprised, though, I will tell you that, because we saw a lot during that trial. It went for 6 weeks. We heard some things during the trial that could corroborate some of this. And when I say I heard, we were there. We were talking to everybody. It's a small town. People talk. And so I am not that surprised. I'm certainly not surprised that the defense interviewed these jurors, especially the one we called Egg Lady, who was removed from the jury at the very last minute, because we knew that the defense was really unhappy with that decision. They liked Egg Lady and they thought she was on their side. And that whole thing was very peculiar when it came up. So in this motion, the defense is asserting that Becky Hill, somebody that we dealt with a lot during the trial, that she made up this claim that there was a Facebook post claiming that Egg Lady had said some things about the case and that she believed Alec Murdaugh was innocent. Egg Lady is now saying that that never happened, that Becky Hill made it up. So there's a lot in here. And if this is true, a new trial could possibly be ordered and may very well be ordered.
Yeah, I want to, I could just tell you as a trial lawyer, how anything that involves interference with a jury's deliberation is a massive problem, and voir dire has to occur. Gigi, we have affidavits that were submitted by jurors here, and again, it's evidence to a certain extent. It hasn't been completely fleshed out, but this court clerk, Rebecca Hill is her name, they argue in these paperwork was telling jurors don't be fooled by the evidence that's being presented by Murdaugh's attorneys. She directly asked me if I was inclined to vote guilty or not guilty before the deliberations occurred. I told her I had not made up my mind and that I want to hear all the evidence before deciding. This is unbelievable pressure. At other parts, she asked if we thought that he was innocent, that basically indicating to them that she did not feel that they were innocent, not to be fooled by Murdaugh and the way he testifies. I mean, and then there's allegations in multiple documents here that she was going into the jury room or the jury area where the jurors were and peeling off a foreperson of the jury and going into multiple conversations for 5 or 10 minutes and telling them foreperson not to discuss what they're discussing to the other jurors. And on the Facebook piece, I'm sorry to go on with this, but on the Facebook piece that Anjanette just talked about, the judge had indicated when the same court clerk got involved in investigating that he had wished she had come to him as opposed to trying to handle it on her own. I mean, that's one thing. But if these statements are true at all, that she was in some way, shape, or form, wink, nod, verbal or otherwise, telling jurors her viewpoint as to how they should rule, I can't see, in the interest of justice, how this does not only get vacated, this conviction ASAP, but that this court clerk, if true, would not be charged with a crime.
Yeah, it's definitely a huge situation. And I really got concerned after I read the affidavits, because that's at the very end of this filing. And it all sort of follows the same pattern of what they are alleging happened. So having, as you said, they came with receipts. I had texted Anjanette to ask if they had put these jurors under oath about this, and I hadn't gotten to the end yet. So when I saw those, I thought, oh man, this is a big deal. I mean, this is the biggest trial this state has ever seen. And to potentially have this conviction tossed out and do a new trial, it's going to be chaos.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Anjanette, we try to extend the benefit of the break for the stupidity of human beings, okay, all the time. But this is a court clerk that is trained and sworn to ensure that the jury is fair and impartial and that no one intercedes in the deliberative process. And if that happens, they're to immediately report it to a judge. That's their oath. In this moving papers, in the affidavit, we got piles of papers all over here. I thought it was a big nothing burger until I read this and my jaw hit the ground. Not only was she basically telegraphing to them not to believe Murdaugh, that it's all a trick, the defense is doing a trick, watch him on the stand, there's evidence you don't know about. These are some of the allegations that are in here. But in paragraph 11 of the moving papers of the defendant, it said, Ms. Hill, the clerk, then asked about the views of the rest of the jury. She told me, if this is a juror saying this, if the foreperson would just go in and ask for a raise of hands, that it would be done and over with. She said everyone needs to be on the same page. She then again said she would reinstate a restraining order, and we go on about that. So not only is she giving her viewpoint about the guilt of the defendant, she's actually telling them how to go about it in the deliberative process in order to get there sooner than later. And let's not forget, Anjanette, and maybe you could talk on this, the allegation here is that she didn't want a hung jury. That's why she was trying to figure it out, because she had a book deal and wanted to do speaking engagements. Wow, Anjanette.
And she did release a book recently, just in the last several weeks. So, and she's been on, she was on the new Fox Nation documentary. I saw her interviewed on that over the weekend. So there's a lot going on here. And if every word of this is true, this is very serious. It's egregious behavior. And I must say, Bob, that during the trial, around the time of closing arguments, you know, we were nearing the end of the trial. We had kind of heard, or I had heard really, a rumor that she was talking possibly to the foreperson, and I was not able to verify that rumor. However, it appears from this paperwork that was very likely true. Yes, it's a small town, but that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't matter if you pass this person in the hall. You shouldn't be asking her anything except, hey, do you need a bottle of water? Can we get you anything? Do you guys need anything in there? You know, nobody should really be having any contact with the jurors other than the bailiff or whomever is charged with, you know, making sure they get from the courtroom to the jury room and then back to their cars at the end of the day. It's stunning.
Yeah, Gigi, let me go through a couple of more things here. And again, you can write all you want in this big fat, you know, piece of paper that we have here about the brief, but I segmented the evidence, the actual affidavits that these jurors had submitted. And I just want our audience to listen to some of this, because I mean, if you can see here, I got things circled all over the place. I'm in complete disbelief from what I'm reading here. The court clerk supposedly told the juror not to be fooled by the evidence presented by Murdaugh's attorneys. Told them not to be fooled by the evidence presented by Murdaugh's attorneys, which I understand to mean that Murdaugh would lie when he testified. End of story. Lights out. If the judge believes that happened, Murdaugh's right to a due process has been violated, and it is a sickening and disgusting thing. As a prosecutor, I've been in this position. I've been in a position where not like with a court clerk, that's unfathomable to me, where there was some allegation of juror tampering, whatever. You have no idea, ladies and gentlemen, how much effort and time and sleepless nights and not eating or overeating and not being with your family that prosecutors in particular and defense attorneys too spend on a case like this in order to ensure that there's a fair trial. And you want to make sure that the finger is not put on the scale by anybody. And as a prosecutor, I can tell you in particular, you don't want to put a victim's family through it, your witnesses through a second trial for something you had absolutely no control over, i.e. somebody tampering tampering with a juror. And guys, Gigi in particular, the clerk is alleged to have said in this affidavit, watch him, referring Murdaugh, closely, which I understood to mean he was guilty. I mean, this is just unbelievable. Immediately testified, let's go further. She told the jury, we cannot interact with Mr. Murdaugh because that is what the defense wants us to do. Basically saying the verdict shouldn't take you too long. I'm just going through some of these other ones. You're going to, right before the defense put up the case, Ms. Hill told jurors, y'all are going to hear things that will throw you off. Don't let this distract or mislead you. I am so outraged by this. If these allegations are true, I don't even know what to say other than if the judge does his voir dire and does his interrogation, which he did with the Facebook issue with regard to her, and she did a humming, and that turned out to be all false, all falsely created, but it got a juror thrown off the case. I got to tell you what, if I were representing Ms. Hill, I'd tell her to take the fifth before she spoke to the judge.
Yeah, I think she's definitely probably not feeling so hot right now. I think that these receipts, I mean, I really thought like you, this was going to be a nothing burger, that this was just throw something against the wall, let's see if it sticks. We know that the defense was not happy. She wrote the book and went on the press tour shortly after. I interviewed her on my podcast. I know you guys interviewed her. And so I just don't know where this is going to go. But like you, I do think that this could end up in a brand new trial for him. And we got to do this again. It was 6 weeks in Walterboro. My question is, at this point, do you move it out of Walterboro? And is there going to be another judge presiding, since Judge Newman has subsequently given interviews on air since the verdict? This could be a big logistical nightmare for a million reasons.
Yeah, well, this lady may have been doing this for her own personal self-gain. We'll see with the facts. It's only an allegation right now. We don't know. Or she may have been doing it because she was on top, on the USA, pro-police, pro-prosecution. And if that's true, she has no idea the stakes she put through the prosecutors' hearts right now, who are sitting there in disbelief that all their effort, all their time. I mean, I don't even know what the prosecutors are going to say here, because usually you'd say, well, whatever taint happened with the jury, it would not have affected the outcome of the case. I have never, in over 30 years of a career, seen anything as complicitous and duplicitous as this. And I am sure the prosecutors' hearts are breaking that they even have to respond to this. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
WTF? What the hell is going on here? You're telling me when the court clerk was addressing any member of the jury, no one paid attention? When the jurors were on the Today Show, when they were on Law and Crime, Court TV, CNN, CBS This Morning, Good Morning America, they never mentioned they had been spoken to and they were being coached? Or do you think this might have been set up since way before? Because old Alec didn't seem to be too upset about going to jail. He got all fat and happy and having a good time, you know, back to trading meat sticks and shit. He seemed to be okay. That law firm is so powerful in that state. I'm telling you. And don't think for a second that Judge Newman, who has also spoken out publicly about his decision for sentencing, will be allowed to oversee it. What do you guys think? Before we get to it, I'm going to put the link up. Bama Cat said, I'm confused why they are doing a presser now. Have they already? No, they haven't been granted a new trial that I know. We had Buster speaking out. We have stuff coming down the pike with Stephen Smith. A lot more nastiness from the law firm. Chica said, smells like a big pile of caca to me. Now, my question is, why on earth did she write this book knowing she was the court clerk? See, the timing for me is way off on this. And nobody knows if Newman will see any of this at all. He's about to retire. Jules said total corruption. That's very odd that Jules would say that, because she has a doll she made that looks exactly like Alec Murdaugh. She snuggles every night. I figured she would be on the side of him getting out. Horsewoman said, I watched the trial and evidence points to him. Bushi, now my question is, who brought this to light? Did she put it in her book? I don't know.
Welcome back to Law and Crime. Guys, you got to be watching this. We're going to be handling this. There's going to be a press conference that's going to be going on with regard to this Alec Murdaugh development. This is really, I mean, I've been doing this a long time. I am really awestruck, jaw dropping. In all the years I've done this, never heard anything quite like this. In case you're just joining us, the defense team for Alex Murdaugh is asking for a new trial for their client who's currently serving a life sentence for killing his wife and son. Dick Harpootlian and Jim Griffin claim that evidence has come to light since their client's conviction and are requesting a whole new trial. There'll be a press conference regarding this motion at, I believe, around 2:30. Now, like we've been saying, you've been watching the previous segments. When I first heard this and the producer said, oh, you may have to talk about this. And I said, big zero, motion for a new trial, newly discovered evidence. Been there, done that, happens every day. Then I got the moving papers, read the brief, and then the attached receipts, the affidavits from these jurors. I was blown away. Prediction, this case is being reversed, and the court clerk in that particular courtroom better not be talking to anybody. If I were her lawyer, I'd be telling her to exercise her right to remain silent. Law and crime correspondent Anjanette Levy is here with me right now. And while we wait for the press conference to begin, she has some of the defense motion worth her to read for us. Anjanette, I mean, are you wowed like me here or what? Is it just me? I can't believe it.
Well, the extent of the allegations is somewhat surprising, Bob, but I'm not completely surprised by this, because we had heard some rumblings, and Egg Lady, as I mentioned, the one juror that we believed would be, seemed to believe Alec Murdaugh.
Hang on, I want to address something. Arctic Wolf Angel said Newman just sentenced the hot car mom and boyfriend. Yes, we covered that last week. We certainly did. Sometimes it could take 2, 3, 4 years to get a new trial. Newman, by South Carolina law, has to retire this calendar year. He turned 72 in November. So we have no idea what judge is going to preside over the new trial, if there is one.
she was removed from the jury, and it was pretty controversial. It came at the end of the trial, and we had heard some rumblings about whether or not all of this was true, about her discussing the case with her ex-husband or what have you. So I am going through it, and I'm reading the affidavit of one of the jurors. I'm not going to put her name out there, but she said several times during the trial, Ms. Hill told the jurors that the media would want to interview jurors at the end of the trial. And during one of these conversations, she passed out business cards from the media to jurors. At the end of the trial, Ms. Hill told, redacted name, that no one from the media wanted to interview her. Right before the defense put up their case, this is the next bullet point, Ms. Hill told the jurors, quote, "Y'all are going to hear things that will throw y'all off. Don't let this distract you or mislead you." Number 7, this next point. After Alex testified, 8 jurors indicated they did not believe his testimony. Point number 8, redacted name recalled that redacted name, juror 544, known as Boston by many of the jurors, was very emotional during the trial. Number 9, during the visit to Moselle, redacted name, juror 826, and redacted name walked to the scene together. Then juror 826 began walking with the clerk of court, Becky Hill. There were times the jurors were not kept together, but were in 2 separate rooms. Redacted name noticed that jurors talking about the case before deliberations began. Neither she nor redacted name, juror number 785, joined in on the conversations about Alec. As the jury was deliberating, she believes Judge Newman came to the room she was in and told her the jury would have to spend the night at a hotel if they did not have a vote by a certain time, but she does not recall the time or the deadline. Redacted name, juror number 741, was the first former juror to provide information that the clerk of court made statements to members of the jury about the evidence presented during the trial prior to the jury deliberations. Ms. Hill's conduct was corroborated by other jurors during subsequent interviews. And I must say, earlier on in this affidavit, Bob, it says that during the trial, she witnessed clerk of court Becky Hill come to the jury room, and Ms. Hill and the 4-person, juror number 826, whose name is redacted, went into the bathroom. After Ms. Hill and the 4-person exited the bathroom, Ms. Hill told the jurors they could not ask the 4-person questions. There's also an allegation being made in here, Bob, that somehow Becky Hill selected the 4-person of the jury, or at least recommended that the 4-person who recommended the judge pick a certain juror as a 4-person. So I know specifically, I can see her in my mind right now, the 4-person on the jury. She was not the original 4-person, if memory serves me correctly. And we had a number of jurors dropped or replaced during this trial. So these are very, very serious allegations. And Becky Hill may be required, there may be an evidentiary hearing about this, and she may be required to testify. And as you said earlier, she may invoke her Fifth Amendment right.
Well, I'm telling her if she came to the law firm of the Bianchi Law Group, that's exactly what we'd be saying. We have Chris Adams with us, criminal defense lawyer. Chris, in addition to that excellent presentation that you just heard, I'm going to paragraph 10. Now, this Facebook thing, we're going to have to drill down a little bit more. Maybe you could explain the ins and outs about how that got that 4-person essentially thrown off the jury, and it turned out to be a fraud about her ex-husband, who she hadn't seen in 10 years, blah, blah, blah. We can go through all that. But in one of the affidavits, it's alleged that she, Chris, that she was going into the jury room. She was having private conversations with people. She was influencing them with regard to basically Murdaugh's a liar, don't believe his defense attorneys. But paragraph 10 of one of the affidavits indicates Ms. Hill then asked me questions about my opinion regarding Murdaugh's guilt. Chris, you're a great trial lawyer. Can you even believe that I'm reading these words, if they're even true, prior to they're asking whether or not the opinion of the juror on Murdaugh's guilt. She asked if I was leaning one way or the other. Come on. I told her Creighton Waters' closing was good, but I still had questions. She asked me what kind of questions, and I replied questions about the guns. She asked me what would make me think he's innocent. I asked, there was no murder weapon found. She then asked, well, what makes you think he's guilty? I said, Paul's video. It just is an extensive discussion of the facts. She then stated everything Murdaugh said has been lies, and that I should, quote, forget the guns. They will never be seen again. Chris, are you in complete shock like I am? It's almost impossible to believe it, except you have these affidavits coming from multiple jurors that are all essentially corroborating this.
If the allegations are true, it is outrageous conduct that should require a new trial. This kind of stuff just can't be allowed in courts, big trials or small trials. And we know that there's some informality in some smaller courthouses, or maybe informality in some chambers, but this is so far beyond that. This is a clerk of court. If these allegations are true, it's a clerk of court coaching the jurors to return a guilty verdict, which we just can't allow that.
Yeah. Wow. I got to tell you, Chris, I was saying before, I think the prosecutors are devastated by this. When I've had any kind of issues with juror involvement, which don't even approach anything like this, you have a voir dire.
Here, wait a minute, where are they facing? So like this? Okay. Is that good?
All right.
Okay, so.
Push the button here.
Yeah, button, what?
Push the button.
Yes. So I'm going to read a statement. Jim Griffin will have a couple words to say, and then we'll answer questions. Today, Jim Griffin and I filed a petition based on newly discovered evidence with the South Carolina Court of Appeals to stay Alec Murdaugh's appeal while a hearing is held on a motion for a new trial. Concurrently, we've sent a request to the South Carolina U.S. Attorney to open a federal investigation into the violation of Alec Murdaugh's civil rights. The allegations in the petition filed today speak for themselves, but we believe they explain a number of peculiarities in the 6-week trial. We request that SWED stand down on initiating any investigation of these allegations, since they are heavily invested in maintaining Alec's convictions. We suggest they wait for the Court of Appeals to rule and receive direction from the trial court. If the Court of Appeals remands the case for an evidentiary hearing, if the Court of Appeals remands the case for an evidentiary hearing, we would also request that those in the media and the public respect the privacy of those included in this filing. Jim and I want to thank those on our team who stand behind us and have worked tirelessly to ferret out the truth. Alec Murdaugh maintained and still maintains his innocence in the murder of Maggie and Paul, and believes the truth will ultimately prevail. Jim?
The right to a jury trial, the right to a jury trial is a fundamental principle of our justice system. Jurors must be free from outside influences and must decide the case solely on the evidence presented in the courtroom, subject to the rules of evidence, subject to the rules of the court, and most importantly, subject to the crucible of cross-examination that's guaranteed by the Sixth Amendment to the Constitution, and that is the right to confront witnesses. When jurors receive private communications outside the confines of a public courtroom, the Sixth Amendment is violated and numerous other constitutional rights are violated. And that's not Jim Griffin on the law, that is the law of the land. And I want to quote from a decision from the South Carolina Court of Appeals, which is behind me, and states this: where there is a private communication of a court official to members of the jury, an occurrence which cannot be tolerated if the sanctity of the jury system is to be maintained, a new trial must be granted unless it clearly appears that the subject matter of the communication was harmless and could not have affected the verdict. What we had filed today, supported by sworn testimony of jurors, is that the clerk of court had improper private communications with the jurors, and the subject matter of those communications was the credibility of the defense that the Murdaugh legal defense team put up, and it was the believability of the defendant's own testimony. Now, there's been a lot of talked about whether Alec should have taken the stand. I can assure you, when we considered what factors and what we should and should not do and considered whether he should take the stand, we never considered the likelihood, as reported to us by the jurors, that the clerk of court would go in to the sanctity of the jury room before he testified and tell the jurors, don't be fooled by his testimony. Watch out for his body language. And that is what the sworn testimony that we have filed in court today says. And if that is true, which we have every reason to believe that it is, and no reason to believe that it's not, there's no choice but the courts to grant a new trial.
Thank you. Any questions? No?
Yeah, wow.
Okay.
Wait a minute. The fourth person was pulled away at those cells. Did you guys see that, or did you find out after the fact?
Well, I think we observed it. We did. No, I was there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I was there. I watched it. But I mean, look, we were not looking to impute any nefarious conduct. But clearly, what the jurors reported to us, that they were off talking, the forelady and the clerk. I saw them together, but I wasn't watching. I believe. Look, I've been doing this almost 50 years. The bedrock of any trial, and I've done hundreds of them, is that the clerk of court is the person that makes sure the jury gets their food. If they're put up for the night, someplace to stay, their travel accommodations are met. They're not someone that ever should talk to them about the case. I've never had it happen. Again, I've been doing this for a very long time. Never heard of it happening until this case.
And one thing we want everyone to understand, that the clerk of court is an elected official by the people, not appointed by the judge, not appointed by the judiciary. It's a public official who's elected and is an independent state actor. And so what we are complaining about in the motion that we filed today is the conduct of an elected official, not conduct by Judge Newman or anybody in the unified court system.
And I think it's important also to understand that she is a state actor, and that's why we forwarded today a letter to the U.S. Attorney asking them to open an investigation into the violation of Alec Murdaugh's civil rights by a state actor under color of state law.
I believe you guys had 4 jurors that you had affidavits for in the paperwork you filed. Did they reach out to you, or did you guys reach out to them?
Well, this is an interesting story. Let Jim tell you.
So immediately in the aftermath of the verdict, we had received information that we needed to look into what happened in the jury room. We started down that road and we met a zone of silence. No jurors would speak to us. And so we were, what I like to call, we were given the Heisman, right? And then when the clerk of court wrote her book, published her book, that zone of silence collapsed. And jurors were upset about that, the ones we talked with, and they were more than willing to come forward and tell us the things that we had sort of heard through a whisper campaign. But, and so as a result of that, we were able to interview some jurors. Now, there's still a number of jurors who maintain that zone of silence, who have not talked to us. We did try to reach out to most all of them that we could get in touch with, but we, the information we got, I can tell you, was independent of each juror. The first juror we talked to, we got information about Ms. Hill saying, "Don't be fooled." And then the second juror, independent of the first juror, says the same thing, and the third juror, independent of the other two, say the same thing. And so we're very confident that the information is accurate.
Well,
Timeline.
What
a ruling will be, how fast you want?
Ask them. I mean, we don't have any control over that. We just did receive a notice from the Court of Appeals that the Attorney General has 10 days to respond to our motion. Okay. Now, I think what's interesting to me, again, having done this for so long, is that once we had that initial contact with that first juror, we began going around. We had a list and knocking on, literally on Sundays, knocking on jurors' doors, asking them to speak with us. Some of them wouldn't come out. Some of us told us never to come back. But some did, and some talked to us. I'll give you an example. And one of the things we heard was, once the jury went out, even though there were 6 smokers and they were given smoke breaks during the entire trial, once the jury went out, they were told no more smoke breaks. No, you people that want nicotine, you're going to have to get a verdict first. I mean, it's that kind of stuff. Now that indicates something, and the court would be the one to communicate that. Why? So a bunch of folks told us stuff that appeared to be inconsequential, but in the total context indicated to us that what we've put in this petition about the clerk is credible, and based on sworn testimony from 2 jurors, and we interviewed a third. My paralegal, Holly Miller, has given you an affidavit or filed an affidavit on what she told us. A lot of these folks just don't want to get involved, but they're going to be involved if we get a hearing, because each and every one of them is going to have to testify in an open court before you as to what happened and what didn't happen. Wait, one at a time. Who?
It would appear that Judge Newman was at least aware of some of the allegations that you talk about in your motion. For example, the Facebook post with juror 785, and the judge actually said, "Oh boy, I'm not too pleased about the clerk interrogating a juror as opposed to coming to me and happening it to me."
Well, and that's a good point. There's no suggestion that the judge did anything untoward. But what that does do, if it comes back, he may end up being a witness. So, I mean, but until the Court of Appeals acts, that issue does not have to be dealt with.
But if the fact is that the court was aware of some of these issues, but still didn't intervene, how concerned are you?
We don't know. We don't know that he didn't intervene. That's why I'm saying he's a witness. We need to know.
That this evidence is strong enough such that it could have changed the verdict had it been introduced in trial.
You know, that's not the legal test. The legal test is the subject matter prejudicial to the defense. It's not would it have made a difference in the outcome. Was the subject matter of the improper private conversation material to the defense? If it's immaterial, like what do you want to have for dinner? Do you want to take a smoke break? Do you want to go home? Those are immaterial matters. But when the subject matter is, and is reported under oath by these jurors, it was a direction on how you should receive Alec Murdaugh's testimony. You should look at him. Don't be fooled by him. That subject matter is absolutely material. That's the core of our defense. And that is something that we had no chance to defend against. And so we strongly believe if that evidence is accurate, and the law will require a new trial.
If this is all true, do you think the clerk should be criminally charged?
When was the last
No
time you
comment.
spoke with your client, and what has he shared with you with his latest motion?
Well, I can't talk about attorney-client privilege information. I can tell you that when I shared with him the affidavits, he's a lawyer. He was astonished. He was shaking. He was in disbelief, and he thanked Mr. Harpootlian, Mr. Barber, and myself for spending our weekends on dirt roads in Colleton County.
And by the way, we've seen more of Colleton County on dirt roads, in places we're city boys, we didn't believe existed in this state, looking for folks that would talk to us. A lot of doors slammed in our face. A lot of doors slammed in our faces.
You think Ms. Hill should still have her job?
I'm sorry?
You think Ms. Hill should still have her job?
No comment. I'm sorry, what?
Facebook posting from the ex-husband of the dismissed juror. There's a lot of detail in there about that. And there's some in-camera transcripts there as well. Was this not something that happened very quickly? The fact that you guys are alleging it didn't exist at all and perhaps was conspired to be created to get this juror dismissed?
Yes.
That's a very serious allegation.
It's all serious. Everything we've alleged, everything in those affidavits is serious. This is a very serious matter. And again,
So what you see in the sworn testimony that's been filed today is Ms. Hill told the court that there was a Facebook post by this juror's ex-husband. The ex-husband has filed an affidavit saying, "I've never posted a Facebook post." Ms. Hill in her office says he must have deleted it. We can't find it. But they produced a Facebook post from someone with the same name apologizing for an earlier Facebook post and that Satan made him do it and et cetera, et cetera. And Ms. Hill related that as being this juror's ex-husband. Ms. Hill had this juror's ex-husband's photograph. You can match them up. They don't match. And what we do know, and we laid it out in detail in our brief, is that the apology Facebook post was posted, I think, on February 16th and said we had deleted it the day before, February 15th. Ms. Hill is telling Judge Newman on February 23rd that I just saw this Facebook post. Impossible. Impossible. We also have in there sworn testimony that Ms. Hill told this juror that SLED went out and confirmed with your ex-husband that he posted that. Not true, according to the sworn testimony.
And Phil Barber and I and Howie Miller from my office went down and interviewed the ex-husband, and he allowed us to, I wouldn't know how to do it, but Phil did, to download his entire Facebook history. None of that is in there. So, I mean, again, we've done what we can do. We're not the police. You know, we have no way to compel anybody to talk to us or give us anything. We've asked very nicely. Now, I will say this. The two jurors that gave affidavits have an attorney, Joe McCullough, who was skulking around here a moment ago back there. So if you want to know about those two jurors, you may want to have a chat with him.
What's the motivation of the jurors talking to you?
Wait, what?
What's the motivation, do you think, of the jurors talking to you? Are they upset with the clerk?
I think they were upset with the way things went. And the clerk, I think they may very well, yes, they're upset with the clerk. They're upset with the way this played out.
Are they regretting their vote?
Can't comment on that.
The Facebook post, the person who posted the original post, have you ever gotten an opportunity to speak with them? And if so,
No. I mean, the original post, we don't know whether it ever existed.
But the apology post, did you speak with him, Phil?
No, we did not speak.
Do you have a timeline from the FBI regarding your request for a new investigation?
Well, as you know, having talked to the FBI before, no. They're not going to tell us anything.
In your letter to the U.S. Attorney, you mentioned the importance of having the FBI investigate as opposed to SLED, for example. Can you talk about the importance of having the FBI involved?
Well, having anybody but SLED investigate it. SLED is very invested in this conviction. How invested? Well, the agent, David Owens, that testified under cross-examination by Jim, admitted two things. One, he perjured himself in front of the grand jury. And two, he fabricated evidence. SLED made him this year's Law Enforcement Officer of the Year. So is that the agency that ought to be going to jurors? I don't think so. I think that the court, if this is remanded back, the trial court should pick somebody else. If the FBI is not doing it, then there's the sheriff's departments, there are other folks, not Colleton County, but other sheriff's departments that could go out and interview jurors or bring them to court. I mean, all these jurors are going to end up testifying anyway. There may not be any reason to go out and interview them. They may just put a subpoena on them, bring them to court.
how important is it for y'all if these jurors testify under oath in a place where, like you say, there's a zone of silence where they have to talk to y'all?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that would happen if we get the hearing that we've requested. That's why we've requested the hearing, so that we can get subpoena power and we can get some subpoena, not just individuals come to court, jurors come to court, witnesses come to court, but subpoena records, phone records, for example, emails, for example. I mean, so with a hearing, we have a broad array of assets at our disposal to bring evidence to court. Right now, we've got nothing except Dick's Mercedes and dirt roads in Colleton County.
Have you ever any jurors who refute what the other jurors are saying?
No, we've not had any juror contradict anything what the other jurors are saying. What you, Jen, what you saw in some of the affidavits is the jurors were separated in two rooms and sort of broke up from, guys in one room, gals in another room. I don't know if that was appropriate. Men in one room, females in another room. And so the comments that we've gotten on the sworn affidavits come from the ladies' room, if you will, more so than the men's room. But we do have information that we submitted from one juror where he does acknowledge that she talked to him about evidence, about autopsy photos, and don't be upset about them. I mean, that should not be happening. That should not be happening. And this juror is a smoker, and he relayed to us basically the coercive effect of people who have a nicotine habit not able to smoke
Until they reach a verdict.
And so that's what we got.
Wait a second. Yeah.
An issue with the cable. Could you read that? There is an additional motion for that issue.
Do what now?
The motion you read. Can you read that? The very first thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'll read it for you after we get done with this, but I don't think I ought to keep all these folks doing that.
Or would you request a change of venue?
Well, you got to get a new trial before you get there, and that's not something we're going to talk about today. And yes, ma'am.
The activities that the jurors have given the affidavits for, was that behavior that successfully distill this exhibit into all 12 at one time?
We don't.
Or were they singled out or segregated?
Well, we know some of the statements were made in front of the jurors in the one jury room. Now, understand I think there are only 6 jurors in that room, or maybe 8. I'm not sure, but not all the jurors would have been present for all the statements. Clearly, they were given in one room or the other.
And just to be clear, the catalyst for like reinvestigating this was the publication of the book.
Yes, ma'am.
So,
Go ahead.
So we didn't stop investigating, but we were hitting brick walls until her book came out, and then jurors who obviously were not comfortable with how she handled matters were even less comfortable with her going on a book tour and making money off what she did. That's what was reported to us.
Now, she has said her book is self-published. That really doesn't sound like somebody who's getting a lot of money. What do you say to that if somebody says, well, she's just self-published?
Well, she's trying to make a lot of money. That's the point. I mean, she's trying to make money off of it. She's selling the book. I mean, the question is, was it a successful scheme? I don't know. I mean, if you've read it, I'm not going to give a book review here, but I don't know that you buy the book. I mean, it's not well written. The story she tells is not accurate, in our opinion, at least the facts as we saw them.
What did you think about the passage of her book that describes going to Moselle with the jurors?
Well, the problem I have with what she says in there is, after going to Moselle, we, if you notice, she used the plural we, felt such and such and such and such. Is that the jurors and her? I mean, I think that's great cross-examination for her when she testifies in this matter before the trial judge, if the Court of Appeals sends it back.
Do you want any hearing in this matter to be public?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We want all y'all there. We miss you. Any other questions?
Yeah, you said you're investigating. So along your investigations into the alleged jury misconduct and these allegations, have you uncovered any additional things that you would present in a second trial for your defense?
Let's not talk about that.
Yeah, no. If we are lucky enough to get a second trial, you have to wait and see. We're not going to disclose any of that today.
What is your optimism for getting for this motion?
I'm very optimistic that ultimately we will get a new trial. How long that'll take, I don't know.
Have you tried to reach Clerk Hill, ask her any questions about any of this?
We've not reached out to Clerk Hill. We had reached out to some other folks, and based on the information we received, we thought it would be pointless to reach out to her.
Do you have any alternate suspect or suspects?
What now?
Do you have any alternate suspects or suspects in the case?
We're focused on getting him a new trial. That's what we've been working on. Anything else? No? Thank you so much. Let me read this statement to him real quick. No shit.
Well, this is one of the craziest things I've ever seen in my life. On appeals, new trials are always asked for. All the time. KPM said, I thought Jim was asking for more money for the appeal. No, I think they've already been paid quite well for what they're supposed to do, and that is to get Alex out of jail. Whether he sits in jail for a year, 6 years, or 10 years. I love this dude in the background that says Murdaugh guilty. There's no way in hell they would have this press conference if they weren't certain, considering the names that are attached to them and what they attach their name to. If they weren't certain, they weren't going to get a new trial. Every time there's an appeal, they ask for a new trial. An appeal isn't, hey, can you cut them a break and let them out? They always want a new trial. It's not anything new. It's not, no. They always ask for a new trial. That's exactly what an appeal is. That dude is awesome. He is something else. So for those of you that were asking, this is Poot Poot's wife, and she does answer straight to the president. Again, they're talking about Alex's civil rights. They're saying they want this done federally. It's going to get crazier.
Australian-y. Moye, Ime, Ye Jamie Harpootlian. And these are my guys, my husband Dick and our Aussie Doodle Ray. They are the very best things in my life. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to serve as the ambassador of the United States to Slovenia. Public service has always been a part of my life. I'm lucky to have grown up in a military family where my parents demonstrated patriotism and public service every day. Dad was a naval aviator who served in 3 wars to protect freedom and democracy. My husband is a lawyer, a state senator, and a former state's attorney. And Ray is, well, he's just Ray. And as a lawyer too, I've spent most of my career in the federal courts working as a neutral party charged with upholding the rule of law and public trust. We're from South Carolina, where you can enjoy nature from the mountains to the sea, just like Slovenia. We love to hike, and riding horses has been a lifelong passion for me. We're in hike.
Hang on. Does Dick look like he's hiking? That looks like a screen grab behind them. They walk, that's probably from their living room. Look at that shit. You've got to be kidding me. That looks like when I was 3 years old and they would pull down the shit at Sears Portrait Center. And my mother would say, hang on, you messed up your hair. If South Carolina's so great, why is she wearing a New York Yankees cap? Shit. I could put OJ in front of that right now, and I'd tell you guys OJ was in South Carolina. But you'd call bullshit on me. Holy shit. And why does he button his collar all the way to the top?
And riding horses has been a lifelong passion for me. We're in Congaree National Park, one of my favorite places in my hometown, Columbia, South Carolina. It's an old growth, floodplain forest that was saved from the lumberyard by a few people who joined together to protect the plants and creatures that live here. This park inspires me. It shows what can happen when people join together to work for the common good. A love of our planet is just one of many fundamental values that the United States and Slovenia both hold dear. Our countries have tremendous opportunities to strengthen our ties in so many ways. My goal is to be a bridge, to work every day to open avenues for working together and strengthening our partnership, to support our common vision for peace, prosperity, and a healthier planet for all people. Savitamu Kamalu.
The fuck? How'd they teach her how to speak Slovenian? The hell was that? Next, we're going to have Dick on a surfboard. My God.
New tonight at 11, President Biden has nominated Columbia attorney Jamie Harpootlian to become the next U.S. ambassador to Slovenia. She is the wife of Richland Senator Dick Harpootlian, a longtime friend and ally of the president. In making the announcement today, the White House said Jamie Harpootlian is an accomplished attorney. She still has to be confirmed by the U.S. Senate.
Well, shit. Swear to goodness. Julie said, "Oh my God, Brooks, you just made me imagine him on a surfboard without a shirt with a Magnum PI mustache." Yeah. This is not the law, my friends. This is politics. Yeah. Next thing you know, we're going to have Poot Poot coming out with a machine gun saying he's saved a village in Slovenia. That's how politics works. And soon all of this will be buried and we won't hear anything about it. That's how it goes. It's not what you did, it's who you know in certain circles. OJ and I don't really have those type of connections. Trust me. If I get caught walking down the wrong side of the street, I have to pay a ticket. But this is very disturbing. So when people say, and I don't mean any of you, "Oh, nothing's going to happen. He's probably going to wind up getting the death penalty." No. No. It's not even about money. It's about politics. Politics walks. Bullshit. Gets thrown right out the door. Ridiculous. Crazy. Because no way the husband of the ambassador that is right underneath the president would get out there and give a press conference like that unless they already knew what was going to happen. Wendy said Dick wants power. That's what his wife's t-shirt says. Steffer says, "Brooks, delete your channel." Why would I do that? Am I doing something wrong? Looks like Steffers needs to go. Get out of here. You're ridiculous. Yeah, we've been getting a lot of trolls lately since I did something stupid. I got out of my lane a couple weeks back, so we see that every now and then. But it's going to be okay. All right, guys. This has been a very educational afternoon. Very educational. Kind of making me a little sick at my stomach, but you know, hey, that's how it happens. I would think Maggie's family would be coming unglued, but I have a feeling we're never going to hear anything from them. Have a feeling. All right, guys, if I don't see you over in Discord or one of the Facebook groups, then I will catch you tomorrow at 9 a.m. I'm not quite sure what show we're going to do, but I have a feeling we're going to go through more about Murdaugh. And I'm also going to put a vest on OJ that looks like Uncle Rico from Napoleon Dynamite, looking like he's in Slovenia or in South Carolina. It's going to amaze you guys. You're going to be like, how did you do that so fast, Brooks? That's how it happens. You never know. But you guys are the absolute best. Love having 2 shows in a day, and we need to start doing it more often. Exactly, Wendy. Vote for Pedro. Vote for Pedro. See you guys tomorrow. Like I said, if I don't see you in any of the other groups. Thank you guys for being absolutely amazing and always hanging in there.